The House Oversight Committee called Attorney General Pam Bondi to testify last week, and she clearly demonstrated that she doesn't understand the assignment. She absolutely doesn't understand the constitutional separation of powers, and she doesn't understand the constitutional role that the House of Representatives has to provide oversight of the Department of Justice. She brought two 3-ring binders with her to the hearing. One was about 3 inches thick, and the other was about half that. The big one is what Democratic members of the committee have taken to calling her burn book. It contained opposition research and insults on each of the Democrats on the committee. And those insults were specifically designed to cut deep. You know, the kind that would leave a mark. Included in that book was the search history of every Democrat who had done a search at the Department of Justice where they're keeping the unredacted Epstein files. That history told the Department of Justice what each Democrat looked at. Now, I'm no lawyer and I don't play one on TV either, but I have watched enough Perry Mason and enough Law and Order to know that that's illegal surveillance. Under Pam Bondi, the Department of Justice is conducting illegal surveillance of members of Congress. But she didn't need that book of burns for the Republicans on the committee. The one that she brought for them was the smaller one. She knew that she could rattle off just about anything, and the Republicans would sop it up with a biscuit. And with one exception, that's exactly what they did. She didn't come to testify. She brought a 3-inch binder full of weapons. She came prepared to fight, prepared to lay waste to as many Democrats as she possibly could. She interrupted Democrats. She shouted insults at them. She feigned self-righteous indignation at the very idea that they had the nerve to even ask such questions. She even called one Democrat whose grandfather was a Holocaust victim an anti-Semite. And the woman was so insulted that she got up and walked out of the hearing. Bondi's response was a satisfied, self-congratulatory chuckle, as if she was proud of insulting a Democrat to the point of causing an injury. Bondi's viciousness and condescending tone toward Democrats on the committee would make Ann Coulter blush. She was combative, she was defensive, she was scared to death, and she refused to answer questions posed to her. It wasn't because she didn't know the answers. She knew the answers. She just couldn't say them because she knows what would happen to her if she did. She knows that she's a consigliere to a mob boss that is illegally annexing an entire country into his criminal organization. Pam Bondi knew the answers to those questions, but rather than answer them, she would launch into a litany of praise for Donald Trump that was worthy of an old-school Christian tent revival, for crying out loud. At one point, she was asked how many of the perpetrators of Jeffrey Epstein's child trafficking network she had investigated and or prosecuted. Her response was to launch into how well the Dow Jones Industrial Average and the NASDAQ were doing as she genuflected in the direction of her personal Lord and Savior. She insisted that the committee should be talking about Donald Trump's magnanimous accomplishments, while they are instead whining about the victims of the most expansive and abusive global child sex trafficking operation in history. I say that Pam Bondi is a 5th grade schoolyard bully in the body of a full-grown adult. I say Pam Bondi is evil. And although I didn't see any mirrors in that hearing chamber last week, I still say Pam Bondi has no reflection. And with that, I'm GL Franklyn for The View from out here. Much love.